we're starting to get some soft data where employers are seeing an ROI 8 years out. The student may work for them in their junior or senior year, and then they leave. But what ends up happening is they can't find that same positive experience that they had with the employer when they were in high school, that they're seeing them boomerang back. You're not always going to see that ROI in year 1, 2, 3, or 4. But when you can start to brand your business as the place to be in the community, 70% of people are going to come back to like a 12, 13 mile radius of where they grew up. Are you the business that they want to work for when they come back?
Hello and welcome to the Future is Clear Teach Like It's 2045 webcast series. My name is Scott Carr from CESA 2. Today's topic area is work-based learning, how 2 schools are taking it to the next level. Joining us today is James Michlig from Muskego-Norway School District and Dustin Lehman from Mukwonago Area School District. Jim is a college career experiential learning coordinator for the Muskego-Norway School District. He is also the co-owner of Honeycomb Consulting and a policy committee member for ACTE's work-based learning. He has taught technology education and work-based learning before his current role as an administrator. He has been in education for almost 20 years. Dustin is the college and career readiness coordinator for Mukwonago Area School District and the other co-owner of Honeycomb Consulting. He has taught technology education in both Wisconsin, Indiana, in both rural and urban settings for 9 years before taking his current leadership role for Mukwonago. Dustin has worked in education for 18 years, 9 as an administrator. There you go. How's it going, fellas?
It's going great. Scott, good job on getting the Muskego-Norway, Mukwonago College Career Experiential Learning Coordinator all in one take. Nice job.
Yeah, all in one take. Funny. Yeah. People don't know it took me like 4 times, but yes, we're finally there. How's the school year going for you guys?
For me, it's been a little bit of a whirlwind for those of us that kind of been paying attention to what's going on as we just completed a $48 million referendum. 23 million was focused strictly on tech ed, CNA, and kind of our art programming. So it was a large part of my work last year, a large part of my work this year to get it up and running. So we're in that point now that I think we're moving along and at a steady pace versus the tornado it was before that. So Dustin, how about you? I think you might have some stuff coming up on your plate.
Yeah, now we're at the very beginning of a $90 million referendum, building a brand new middle school. And obviously my role in that is going to be kind of re-envisioning what CTE looks like. So we have a comprehensive program 6 through 12.
Wow.
So my work is just starting.
Just starting, yeah. Is that the same middle school that's been there for like the last 150 years?
The same middle school that's probably 52 degrees in the classroom right now.
Yeah, funny. Way back, I'm not going to tell you what year, but way back in the day, I did my student teaching there. Yes, that was a long time.
Middle school then, or was that a high school?
I was middle school. Middle school. Yeah. It was a long time ago though. But hey, I got to say, I'm super excited to have finally met the two of you. A friend of mine, Mike, Rick, brought your names up about had to be 2 years ago. And he's like, you got to meet these 2 guys over in Mukwonago and Muskego. They're doing some great things. And finally caught up with you guys. We were able to connect, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, and we've had some great conversations around this work. So I'm really curious. Tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get where you're at? How did you get into the work that you're doing? You're both passionate about it. I think that's super cool. Tell me.
I'll kind of jump in first and just kind of going through the journey. Mine's interesting, right? So we talk about work-based learning, and we talk about a lot of the education that I'm guiding happens outside of the brick and mortar of a traditional educational setting. And the reality of like my passion and where that came from is I wasn't that kid that loved sitting in the classroom. I did not love going to English and math class. I remember I passed geometry by like a loophole that the teacher put out there just because I wasn't engaged. But now you roll me into the woodworking class with Mr. Reinhardt back in the day and Mr. Elliott, the automotives classes. That's where I was able to connect geometry to real life and actually learn and understand it. So somewhere along the line, it's kind of a crazy story. I was going to go into the trades And then the 11th hour of my high school senior year, like really the 11th hour, I think it was March. I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to work in the trades because you don't engage and work with people. I think I'm going to go into teaching. And then everyone's like, whoa, you know, you're like deficient on math credit and you haven't taken your ACT and you haven't done that. And I was like, yeah, so what's the big deal? We'll figure it out. And luckily, I had a supportive mom that kind of helped me work through UW Waukesha at the time and get in there for a starter school and move on. But it's been an interesting journey that I was able to shed light to not only myself, but a group of students that were like me. Like they didn't love your traditional educational setting, but they had skills and they had skills that led to potential engineering careers and plumbing careers and stuff like that. So I found a natural connection to students that didn't connect to schools. And then as we continue to research and look at how do we redefine education? How do we make it fit for everybody? How do we prepare all students to be college career ready? That's where my lack of initial passion for traditional school helped me innovate, create, redesign that we can make sure we're meeting the needs of all students to the comprehensive programming that we're running today. Myself and Dustin, 2 years ago, broke off and started doing our own youth apprenticeship. Between the two schools, we're targeting about 250 youth apprenticeships ourselves, not including our other work-based learning students that don't fit that mold. And I think for me, it just starts from being able to find the opportunities for the kids that may not love traditional school, but then the opportunities are also there for the kids that do love school as well. So that's a little bit of my journey. Dustin's going to jump in here and he's going to throw the hands up for all the Clintonville truckers that are going to be watching this because I know he always connects with them. But Dustin, where'd you start?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, much like most tech ed teachers, while I was a student, that is where I gravitated. I grew up on a dairy farm and I was a very hands-on type learner. I built houses in the summer. That's the kind of work I did throughout college as well. Welded in the summer, built houses during high school summers. And I guess tech ed is just kind of where I found that passion, having education in my family as well. So getting my first teaching job down just southwest of Madison. When I came out of UW Stout, it was the only job within 75 miles of Madison, so I felt very fortunate. I went down there because that's where my wife, she was a semester ahead of me. So started off in the Madison area, New Glarus.
Nice.
Worked there for 7 years before taking on a new journey down in Indiana at a career academy. And I think those 2 years in Indiana, while I loved my job, was 2 very long years because I'm a Wisconsin through and through guy. Especially being a family guy there. So I needed to get back to Wisconsin. But in Indiana is where I really learned how education can be different. It was at a career academy that worked from kids were in school from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., getting ready for the workforce. We were very connected with the community, with local manufacturers, and it just kind of really saw what that classroom extended in the community can look like. So I really loved and appreciated my time down there. But when we came back to Wisconsin, I decided I wanted to take that next step into leadership. So naturally, I'm thinking CTE coordinator. I saw college and career readiness coordinator. I didn't know what the hell that meant. I still think I'm 8 years into the job now, and I still have people ask me, what does that even mean? Right. So I guess my biggest role here at Mukwonago is I oversee all of our career and technical education programs, much like a CT coordinator would do. But I mix that in with my director of instruction and my principal license. I also do all the evaluation, all the curriculum design, as well as all the grant writing, and kind of duties as assigned, right? So that's kind of my role. I've been fortunate enough to be able to partner with Jim with our work-based learning to really kind of blow that up the last couple of years to create more opportunities for not only our students, but also our community as well to kind of navigate that workforce shortage. And it's been a journey. It's been a good time.
Yeah, it's kind of what I looked at as one of the things that me and Dustin joke about is he talked about college career readiness coordinator, college career experiential learning coordinator, and everyone's like, what is that? The running joke is it's everything that nobody quite knows where it fits, but it's really important and they don't know what to do. It just falls under Jim and Dustin's plate. So it's like, hey, that's like really important to connect us and do work, but I don't know what it is. So Dustin will figure it out.
Yeah, you say that well, and it kind of with the work that I'm doing at CESA too, I see that all the time. It is greatly needed. It probably has more meaning and more importance in our school systems than a lot of the other things, yet we don't know where to fit it in. But yeah, I love it. I love the backgrounds of both of you. I can relate. I say it the same way, Jim. I just couldn't connect to school. I had two older brothers that were really good at it. And when I graduated back in the mid 80s, my dad looked at me and said, "Well, you can go to college or you can drive a truck." And I thought, well, I don't want to drive a truck, so I'll go to college. But I just couldn't find that connection to school, the relevance. And over time, I think that's where I've kind of made my match. So I really respect it. It's great to hear it. Yeah, so talking about that, let's lead into the conversation. So really, you guys have done some phenomenal work around career readiness, for your schools, work-based learning. Why the need for change? Why the need for a systems change to see this career readiness approach take place in our schools in all classrooms?
Yeah. So Scott, if you think about it back in the mid 80s when your dad was asking you, you either go to college, you drive a truck, that decision didn't quite have as, I guess, it wasn't as hard of a conversation if college didn't work out for you, right? Because it
Yeah.
wasn't as expensive as it was today. Whereas I don't think, well, I know our kids just can't afford to say, well, I'm going to try college out. Who knows? Maybe it's what I want to do. Like they need to graduate from our schools with an intentional next step. Okay. That might be a gap year where they're working until they figure that out. But if they're going to go to a 4-year university or a 2 university, it needs to be for an intentional reason that will have an intentional outcome that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Right? Because the reality is we just can't afford to make that decision without thinking of what the financial implications could be at the end if it's not the right decision. So
Yeah, and I jump on that too, and I got two things to add. One thing we've seen and I tell my staff, and it's hard for staff to understand it who don't work outside the school system, is our students and families have become informed consumers of their education. And so, like back in the 80s, the price point of college, a price year of a 2-year school was a lot less than it is today. So the way inflation and stuff has risen, we want to avoid and help our families and our community not only avoid the $100,000 mistake that a student may have, right? I pursued this degree and now that I'm done, can't find a job and I hate it. So we want to help our families avoid that. We want to help them be informed consumers of how do we set them up for success. I know for me, it's not and or college or the workforce, but rather when and how. What is that next training that you need? It could be a 4-year degree to advance your knowledge. It could be right when you leave high school, or it could be 8 years when you're in the workforce. But it could also be industry recognized certifications that you continue to pad your portfolio to bring relevance to your employer as you go. The other thing I want to kind of go back to, like why the need to innovate and change education today, it's not only for our students, our families, and our community, for our students and families, but it's for our communities as well. If you pull the data and the reports, there are more jobs out there that are not going to be filled,
Yeah.
uh, like currently, to continue society functioning as it currently is. I just sat with some economic development developers and talking about the future of where they're going. And not to get political, they just said even if you opened up and streamlined our green card process, and with AI starting to take over entry level jobs, it's still not going to be enough to fill the workforce shortage that is out there. So we
Wow.
need to do better for our students and our parents, but we also need to do better for our economy. We need to do better for the state of Wisconsin so that we are filling the jobs that are here to keep our society functioning moving forward.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we've seen a lot of this research coming through. I know Georgetown University did a study on, by the year 2030, there's going to be less than 30% of our workforce requiring a 4-year degree or higher. And it's turning into, right, upskilling, reskilling, new skills. So to your point, Jim, I think yeah, and I don't know if you think about it, do our school systems even understand that? Like those that are in our schools, like our educators, we're so conditioned to to teach to academics, right? What do you think of that? Or how do we shift that mindset?
So Scott, if you take a look at Mukwonago, we have 100 teachers in our high school. Every single one of those teachers went the 4-year route.
Yeah,
It made sense for them at the time, and for them to be an educator, it was their intentional next step that they needed to do. Great, phenomenal. We need more teachers, right? But for some students, that's what the work-based learning and getting outside of the brick and mortar of the school building and into those jobs where they're talking and having these conversations with business leaders and different coworkers and things in the industry and learning from them. They're creating more and more mentors that way too, which is another important aspect of this. So for our students, I don't want to say that 4-year school is not the right step. 4-year school is the right step for a lot of different careers. But what I want to make sure that is, if let's say I have a student who wants to go into healthcare and they want to go to a 4-year school, that's awesome. But where in healthcare do you want to go? There is a multitude of healthcare careers. Let's not spend 1 or 2 or 3 years in college figuring out what track of healthcare. Let's get boots on the ground in the hospitals, in the clinics, find out where your passions are so that you're a step ahead once you get to college and you can really take off with that. So that you're not there for 5, 6, 7 years if you need to, right? You're kind of on a path right away. That's the goal.
Yeah, and I would say too, just adding with Dustin his goals, like if 4-year is the right path for what you want to do,
right.
we're here to support it. I mean, Dustin has a very robust health science pathway. To the point that a lot of his students, with the partnerships we're making, with getting our kids CNA certified before they leave, with getting a youth apprenticeship in there, they're jumping the line in their nursing schools because kids are coming into their sophomore years applying for the school of nursing and don't have the hours required to get in the school of nursing, where the students that we're working with have those hours, so they're skipping past them and starting to accelerate into their future careers. So it is all about just setting up our students to have the opportunities, to have the tools to prepare them for what they want to do next and what's right. And the other thing I want to add too, Dustin, is you talked a little bit, and us a trivia question. Dustin talked about teachers, and we need more teachers. Like, we're not going to continue to keep the bus moving forward without people preparing the future. But you talk about changing the script, Scott, and you talk about how do we create that awareness? It is an uphill battle for educational systems because teachers have never left education. And 90% of them, if not 98% of them, were really, really good at education.
Right.
They're right. Like
Yeah.
I'm the anomaly, right? I was not good at education. It was a struggle for me, and I found my connection in tech ed. I found my connection in work-based learning, and that helped me close the loop. But for some of my AP teachers, my CAP teachers, like, they've always been good at this, and it's hard for them to understand a paradigm shift, and it's hard for them to understand students that don't get what they love.
Yeah, you say it really well. As you and I and Dustin have talked, we've talked about that we become conditioned, right? I finished in the bottom 50% of my class coming out of high school and would have never thought that I would have continued in education, end up with a couple master's degrees, right? And still finding my purpose didn't happen until I was in mid stride in my career, I think. So what would be the suggestion that you'd offer to help with that shifting of mindsets? I mean, because you both have said it, all of our educators have gone through the system, right? They call that apprenticeship through observation. And so how do you do it?
My opinion is it's a systematic approach.
Yeah.
You need to flip the script that experiential learning, work-based learning, and career-based learning is for those kids, and that it needs to be for all kids, all opportunities, and we're opening up the doors and we're connecting. And when you can create a systematic approach, you can flip the script that this is what we're doing for all kids. It starts the conversation. But I'll be very, very transparent with people on this podcast. The work we do is not easy, but it's
Yeah.
the right work. Like, I was just on a one of the work-based learning seminar podcasts like this about a month ago, and the person that was guiding it was preparing me for people wanting the easy button. How do we get to where you are at? How do we do that? And like, what's the easy button? The reality is there's no easy button. There's hard work. There's continually changing, evolving. Like, I always joke with my team, and my team's got very, very comfortable with we're building the bus as we're driving it. Like, this
Yeah.
stuff didn't exist 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's not the conditioned, systematic approach that you're used to. It's navigating the world and being okay with not having the answer. One of our leaders is very procedural and black and white, and I had to cut him out of the meetings because he wants to always analyze down to the umpteenth degree to make sure this works. And I just had to look at him like, hey, if that happens, I promise you, I will figure it out and we won't get sued. But if that's going to stop us from doing anything, we will do nothing ever.
You say it really well in regards to it. Not only are our classrooms an A to Z approach many times, so is the way we approach, implementation or our educational system. It's A to Z. A lot of our leaders want the playbook. They want 1 through whatever, and then we hand that off and say, "This is what it is. This is how you do it." So yeah.
And Scott, I want to kind of jump in there too and give a plug to the conversations we've had with your unconference and then even our conference that we have with Wisconsin Level Up.
Yeah.
I think that's where people have to start getting their heads around this work. Is there's a script, there's a practice plan, but you have to develop and implement your system. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, what fits for you, and Dustin's got a quarterback that's really savvy and smart and intelligent, and he can get the slant route for days, but my quarterback may be better running out on the outside edges. But you know what? We're still running a pro style offense. We're just attacking it a hair differently because each of our Dustin's laughing at my analogies here, but we both have our offenses and we're moving forward, but it's going to look different in each community. Like, one of the things I'm extremely blessed at is to have an extremely involved Chamber of Commerce. To the fact that I sit on their boards meetings every Wednesday. We're really connected with the Waukesha County Business Alliance. We have connections with the WMC. Like, we're in those rooms, but I also know that's not the same in every community. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but you just need to learn to navigate that. And you're going to run your offense and you need to do what's right. I know up in more the middle of the state, Kohler's a pretty strong supporter of work-based learning and youth apprenticeships, and they're kind of that area's Chamber of Commerce, right? So you need to figure out here's the guide and here's the practice script. What's your plays that you're going to run out of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So let's talk a little bit about what this really looks like, right? Because we know we need to make the shift, and I know you guys are doing some really cool stuff in your schools. So what is it? Describe a little bit about what that authentic career readiness, career connected learning, work-based learning, what does that look like in practice?
All right, I'll take off.
Sure.
So in Mukwonago, I would say that, and in any school, I think what it really needs to look like is, first of all, we need exposure, right? Our kids need to know what is all out there. So I think it starts for us in Mukwonago, it starts at that elementary level where we're exposing that these are not just people, these are actually people in careers, right? Like, I always use the analogy like, hey, there's a firefighter. He's not just a superhero. That's also a career, right? To those real littles. And then it kind of keeps evolving as we get all the way up to the high school. So it's a lot of that exposure. But like Jim and I, over the last 5 or 6 years, have tried to create things where it's really hard to get all of our kids out of the building to see that. So what we've done is try to create systems to bring that excellent work into our buildings, whether that be through career fairs or just manufacturing career expos or healthcare career expos, automotive transportation career expos, bringing those to us so that we can expose more and more kids. And then it's through, like, I guess with the state and our academic and career planning at Mukwonago, we call it our Muck Ready system, our Muck Ready planning. Just getting those kids making intentional steps. They have to do a capstone project where they present their senior year to show, hey, what is it that I'm doing? How did I get here? Why am I doing it? How am I going to pay for it? Where is this going to take me? Right? Again, it's all about that intentionality.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I was just going to say that intentionality is huge around it.
And I just kind of want to jump in here and add into, so like Dustin's dead on. exploratory, understanding, ruling out what you don't want to do. Like I say to my families all the time, a bad experience is a good experience when it's coming to try to figure these things out. I cannot tell you every year students start to progress through the CNA program and they may get to a CNA workplace learning. And every year, within 3 to 4 weeks, there's someone in my office. I need to talk to you immediately.
All right.
You know what I had to do? And I said, I got a pretty good guess. You had to clean up vomits, poops, something.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't do this. And it's like, well, I'm glad you learned that when you were 17 years old and not when you were 25 years old after you invested in a degree. Scott, one thing I think it's just my mindset. People in education need to understand as you grow these programs. And Dustin talked about the early touch point, talked about bringing people in, but then also we do value getting our kids out there working for our employers because not only is it good for our students financially, the soft skills they gain and the hard skills, but also it is a return on investment for our employers. So they are people that drive the bus to keep our communities moving forward, and they need a workforce. So not only when you're, so what people need to start thinking about is when you're tapping on people to come talk to your kids, that's potentially lost time and revenue at their company. What's the ROI for the businesses to work with you? And I always say the ROI working with Muskego is we are going to do our best to support each other. And whether I can't promise apples to apples and can't promise that I'm always going to find a match for you, but I can promise that we're going to work together and I'm going to create a systematic approach to help guide students into the right opportunities. And so just understanding there is an ROI for businesses.
Yeah, I know that you guys do a ton of work regarding, I call them capstones, but youth apprenticeship, or I'm guessing you guys probably even do internships or micro internships, co-ops. Talk to us a little bit about some of those experiences and what you've got going on in your schools in relationship to that.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing, and I know Jim has an entire like brand and name for it at Muskego, but what I guess just to touch on the fact that Jim is saying the ROI for business and for these capstones and these YAs, what the hardest conversation for Jim and I when we're talking with different businesses and community partners, they're wanting our students once they graduate. But if they're not willing to take a chance on these kids before they graduate, it becomes extremely difficult for us then to try to connect those dots and to fix their problems of a workforce shortage. It's those companies that take the shot on the 16-year-old, the 17-year-old. Like Jim said, not all of them are going to be as successful as the others, but more times than not, those kids find a home, and now that company kind of has that kid locked up. And they invest in them, they invest their time and resources, and that kid's going to stay there now. But once they graduate, if you're trying to get a hold of them June of their senior year, it's very hard to do that, right? So I guess these capstone experiences for us at Mukwonago and at Muskego are great because they get those kids in before graduation. They establish those relationships, those connections, and it's a win-win for both our students and for our companies.
And Dustin, I want to double back too. We're starting to get some soft data where employers are seeing an ROI and they're saying the 8 years out. So they may come in 7th, 8th grade and present at one of Dustin's events and fairs. The student may work for them in their junior or senior year, and then they leave. So the reality is we're in a TikTok, Instagram society and FOMO and fear of missing out and all that stuff. And so sometimes these kids have good opportunities and they're like, well, I have to go here. I have to leave. I can't just stay. But what ends up happening is they can't find that same positive experience that they had with the employer when they were in high school, that they're seeing them boomerang back. And boomerang is the terminology that our employers are starting to use. And they're starting to say, like, just understand you're not always going to see that ROI in year 1, 2, 3, or 4. It could be an 8-year ROI. But when you can start to brand your business as the place to be in the community, because the data hasn't shifted over the years. 70% of people are going to come back to like a 12, 13-mile radius of where they grew up. So now are you the business that they want to work for when they come back?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And definitely true. I'm close to where I grew up, that's for sure. I feel comfortable that way. I work in my the region I work in for CESA 2 is right at home, and yeah, I'm glad I'm able to do that. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits that this type of structure, if you would, right, environment, the system brings to our students. You know, there's a lot of conversation out there around America succeeds durable skills, right? And we hear a ton from our employers that say it's not the academic skills or even the technical skills that we have to let people go for, it's the durable skills. So talk a little bit about how you incorporate those, how you guys maybe talk about those with your students. Where are they invested in those skills invested in some of this work you're doing?
Dustin, you may know this, but Scott, I think I know what you're talking about. But when you reference durable skills, what are you referring to?
Well, the durable skills of communication, problem solving,
So soft skills,
collaboration. Yeah,
also known
yeah.
as soft
Soft
skills.
skills.
Okay,
Yeah, big
I
bill.
thought that's where you're going, but yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you.
21st century skills, all the terminology around it. We've noticed the durable skill wheel, as they call it, in America Succeeds. And but yeah, those types of skills. Where do you see them advancing? How intentional can that be? What's the benefit of our students?
I think it's hugely beneficial for our students, but it's often hard to replicate in the classroom, which
Yeah,
is a reason why Jim and I, in our school districts, find value in our work-based learning and getting our kids out of the building as well. Great things happen while you're in the building, but like those things that are just so hard to replicate in the classroom, it really comes to life when they're on the job. They see the value of it and they're talking to experts in that industry, right? Like as CTE leaders, as CTE teachers, you're kind of expected to be an expert of a huge umbrella, right? Well, the reality is, like Jim was a tech ed teacher, I was a tech ed teacher. I taught welding. I welded for a summer, tack welding, some MIG welding, but am I a professional welder? No, but I could teach kids that, right?
yeah.
Kids really learn when they get out of the classroom with those industry experts, and just having to work through those real life problems on the job site. You try to replicate as much as you can in the classroom, and we challenge kids and we put them in uncomfortable positions so that they can adapt. But it really comes to life when they're on the job.
Dustin, I want to lean into a little bit about the uncomfortable positions that you talk about, and Scott, like what to do and how do you enhance those durable skills. Like we try our best in education to prepare students for that, but it is what Dustin's saying, you have to get them out there. I tell our business partners all the time, like we have done a phenomenal job of making our buildings safe and comfortable for our students to come to. But now we've done such a
Yeah.
good job of that our business partners are the boogeyman in the closet or the monster under the bed. Like they are so afraid. So you put in
Mhm.
technology, you put in everything that's going on out there to literally hop on this call, Scott. If someone didn't know you, or the first time we picked up the phone call and call you, it sends kids into panic attacks and
Yeah.
anxiety. So like people need to start also thinking about systematic approaches on how you can tackle stuff like that outside of the classroom. An example of two things we do is we have an English teacher that runs mock interviews and he does a really good job, but it's like a lower level 1, 2 experience. He's going to bring us in one of our larger rooms and he's going to have staff interview the kids to work through the process. Working through the process is phenomenal and that low level is a great touch. But for our students in our work-based learning programs that get out there, we do a mock interview. But what we do is we partner with our Chamber of Commerce and students are assigned a business partner in an industry that we try to align to their future career cluster they want to go into. And students will get emailed the partner's name, preferred method of contact, phone number, email, and it's up to them within 45 days to set that interview up, go to that person's place of employment, interview with them, and then we get a follow back. And the most value that we get out of that experience is them having to cold contact someone
Yeah.
and go to a place that's not on our site or our building. And I can't tell you how many times students struggle. And I can't tell you how many times like, well, I emailed this person 15 times, they haven't gotten back to me. And I go to the spreadsheet and I'm like, preferred method of contact, phone number, call them. Well, I text them. It's a landline. You have to physically dial the number.
Right.
There's no text to nobody. So
Right.
it is like, how do you, the more you can get them out of your buildings, right? And back to our educators, back to being different. They love this building. And now you're telling them, hey, you need to
Yeah.
get these kids out of here more. They struggle with it. And even like another example, we do a simulated networking event with our students. We used to hold that on site, and now I purposely go to businesses, and kids have to drive to that event, meet with 15, 20 different business partners and simulate a networking event. And so it's preparing kids for the socialization and what it takes to be successful, and asking questions of a complete stranger and how do they leverage and lead into that to start to create their network.
Yeah. Yeah, that it just makes so much sense, right? Because it's real world experiences, real world application. Like I really, the real world aspect of it is put into play when you're out doing real world things. Who'd ever think, right? And that's really a shift that we need to move ourselves to. Let me ask you this, and I'm wondering if there's any of this happening, maybe in your CTE courses, but if not, what's your vision around this? So we start to talk about career connected learning in classrooms, the ability to go deeper and let those learning experiences to potentially happen within the classrooms. Do you have any of that taking place in your schools? And if not, what's your vision towards something like that?
Yeah, so I would say we have had that. It's amazing when you can replicate that. It's not always easily replicatable year after year,
Yeah.
but when situations come up, we try to take full advantage of that anytime we can. For instance, our social media marketing class works with small businesses within Mukwonago to create social media campaigns to promote their business. So it's
Yeah.
real life, and there's actually relevance to what they're doing. Our manufacturing kids will use the same machines that some of our local manufacturers are using to help produce and manufacture some of their kind of simpler parts to show like these are actual, this is an actual production. This is not just let's say the old hammer and turning down threads, but this is actually something that is relevant, that is making money for a local manufacturer to make it a little bit more relevant. So we do try to replicate that as much as we can when it comes up.
Yeah, I don't want to lean into these as much as we can. And Scott, I know you represent CESA too, which is a wide net. My thing with that all the time is sustainability. So back to what I said earlier, like we have the practice scripts and we can move forward together, but you have to run your offense. And some communities are going to be poised for success to have more of those opportunities. And some communities aren't going to have as many of that. And then you need to
Yeah.
start looking at Waukesha County, where we're sitting at. Well, Muskego, Mukwonago, New Berlin, Oconomowoc, like we're all tapping on some of the strongest partners at the same time. So can the businesses maintain that if we all are running the same offense, So I'm with Dustin. There's a place for it, and it's definitely something we embed and use when those opportunities arise. But it's sustainability wise, I don't know that you can say that this is the one multi-tool to fix all problems. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I would say in all this work, there's no one multi-tool to fix all of this. It's people working together, understanding, learning, growing, and doing the work from, really understanding the state and your local communities and not just always your backyard.
Yeah. What's your vision around stretching what you do into the earlier grade levels? Is that are you doing any of that right now? Is that a possibility? Can you see can you see where that could lead?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as much exposure to our younger kids, the better. In the larger districts like Jim and I, we have it's all different buildings. Sometimes it's a little easier when it's smaller communities to be able to do something like that. But like let's say in Mukwonago, for instance, we our elementary schools hold something called a high interest day. So
Mm,
that's where they bring different career people, parents, volunteer, and kind of expose kids to different activities and careers. But in the last few years, what we really try to do is tap on our students. So our students that are in specific pathways, you're becoming that expert now. Now you go portray your vision and your passion for, let's say, welding or healthcare or robotics, whatever it may be. Now you go teach our youth with that. So it's
mm,
kind of an extension of what our pathways are to try to prepare kids. We're bringing that down and exposing them at a very young age in elementary so that it lays in the back of their mind. It's that ROI. They may not be able to jump into more robotic stuff as a third grader, but 5, 6 years down the road, now they can really engulf themselves in that pathway because it kind of sparked an interest in them.
yeah.
Yeah, and two things to add to that too is back to what I said, that ROI for businesses understanding the payback may not be for 8 years. 9 years.
Yeah.
You're starting with a third grade classroom and starting just an excited kid and just saying, hey, make sure you take these classes. Because I was sitting in the Metropolitan Builders Association Foundation's annual dinner, and we had an electrical contractor get up there and had a young, hungry kid wanted to work for him, and he said he had to fire him because the kid didn't know how to swing a hammer. So maybe if the kid could have been talked to in third grade, and then he takes the Mukwonago Middle School tech course and then follows and starts swinging
Mhm.
a hammer at least at the middle school level,
Mhm.
and now when he's at that position, he's poised to be able to work in that environment. So, and the other thing I want to add to that too is understanding for people that want to start getting with the lower levels, it is a light touch point. It's interest and excitement. So like Dustin called his little high interest day. Like you're looking for the cool, flashy stuff that comes out there. Don't overwhelm them with the nuts and bolts of the professions. They don't care
Mhm.
about pay. They don't care about pensions or salaries if those still exist in the private
Right.
sector. It's I get to shoot 50,000 gallons of water at an object in 10 seconds, So what make it fun too and
Yeah.
engage them.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that in a lot of the work that I'm doing because it does extend all the way down to pre-K. And we talk about it being an awareness opportunity for kids and then eventually a connectedness, to who they are at their core and how that can have a natural marriage and relationship, which then, obviously like what we're talking about here, it's going to increase that relevance to the school system itself. And hopefully have an impact where we see our students be more engaged. But let's move on quick here before we have to end on how do we do this, right? So what would you how do we move ourselves to begin transforming to approach that incorporates a lot of the things that you guys are doing? What advice would you give?
That's a loaded question. And Dustin, you want to jump on that one?
It is building I guess, building that culture around we have to do what's best for all students,
Yeah.
um, down to the part of, like I had said earlier, our teachers are creatures of habit. They all are 4-year degree type people because that's what was required of them, but allowing them the opportunity to learn more about what some of these other options are. I'm going to put a plug in for our good friend over in Oconomowoc. Their admin team did a really cool thing where they got all of their teachers on their in-service days and they took them to WCTC to let them explore what the technical college system has
Mhm.
because they're all 4-year college people. So they
Mhm.
don't quite understand. But where I'm getting at this is those teachers are our biggest and best mentors for all of our students. They have the touch points day in and day out. So it really is like it's great that Jim and I have a kind of a pulse on what to do, but we're not seeing every student every single day. Our teachers are. So it's really kind of building that system-wide belief that this is what's best for all students.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm going to kind of go around, and I said this earlier when we were talking. The work, if you're going to do it right, is not easy. It's what's right. Okay. So I'm writing a book. One of my consultant people are holding me accountable to get it done. I've been writing it for the better half of a year and a half here. But like chapter one is like just the grind. Like people need to understand if you are going to find a leader that's going to guide and lead this work, you have to be willing to grind to get it done. And you
Mhm.
have to find someone that's going to learn what they don't know. And that's business. Like part of what I've had to learn is networking and going to networking events and what it means to sign up for some of these different seminars and things that I go to. There's a lot of business roundtables that I participate and join in. And at the time when I started going to them, I had no clue how it applied to me or equated to me. But now the ROI on me for 8 years later, some of those meetings were as simple as a networking connection that now have become one of my strongest partners. Some of those meetings, understanding businesses' concerns around taxes. Oh, that's why they don't want to hire anyone in the fourth quarter or da 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 da. Like just starting to understand their timeline,
Mhm.
but I was
Mhm.
willing to grind and go to meetings that were uncomfortable for me because it wasn't a norm for me. Like I'm signing up, like, you know what? I don't know anything about this, but I'm telling kids to go learn about this. I need to start going to these meetings. And so You got to find someone that's willing to grind and someone that's willing to go out there and be uncomfortable themselves until they get comfortable at the work.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And that I love how you say networking. In the last 3 to 5 years around the work that I do, I've just really made it a goal to network and connect with more and more people. It's definitely a great way of upskilling ourselves. So I want to take, just before we end here, I want to take an opportunity to ask you guys, talk a little bit about your consulting, what it is you do. Honeycomb Consulting, what is it? Give it a little bit of a plug if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott. So we kind of joke a little bit. Me and Dustin have very unique backgrounds into where we're at. So we are classroom teachers licensed in the state of Wisconsin. We both taught outside of the state of Wisconsin. I was in Illinois for a handful of years. Dustin talked earlier about being in Indiana. We both have our occupational certifications and oversaw the co-op programs back in the day. And Dustin did the Career Readiness Academy. From there, we got our administrative degrees. We have our director of instruction license. I have a pupil service, director of pupil service license. I also have a master's degree in administrative leadership and workforce development. So we have a lot of institutional knowledge and background in CTE, project-based learning, all the stuff that's going on that it's hard to navigate. Like this stuff is clear as mud when it comes to navigating, right? You're working with school districts, you're working with state legislation, you're working with federal legislation, you're working with business partners, you're working with union, you're working with non-union, you're working with registered apprenticeships, youth apprenticeships, and it's a lot. And so what we've seen is as we have a shortage of teachers and we have a shortage of leaders in education, it's not that people don't want to do this work, they don't even know where to start. So me and Dustin have an really good grasp on where to start and how to help you get moving forward. So that's where Honeycomb Consulting's coming in, and the play with Honeycomb is we do truly believe all of us playing together in the sandbox in the state of Wisconsin is going to make Wisconsin better. So we do believe in the work. We believe in the future is going to look different, and we just want to help the people that need the help. Dustin, anything to add?
You summed that up really well, Jim.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Practicing.
You gave it a good pitch. I like it. I like it. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, who
Yeah.
wouldn't, right? You got the opportunity. You got to sell it a little bit, man.
Well, the reality, Scott, is that a lot of schools, if they have someone like us, they're doing some really good work.
Yeah.
If you don't have someone like us, it falls on the shoulders of a principal, or it falls on the shoulder of an AP who
Yeah.
might not have that background, that has been tasked with something that it's a little unrealistic to expect them to do something really well when there's so much else on their plate. But Jim and I, through our years of experience, have created some systems to get it off the ground and keep it sustainable for some of those smaller districts that may not have a college and career readiness coordinator or a CT coordinator. Because there's a lot of opportunity for our students. There's a lot of opportunity for alternative funding that schools just don't quite understand. So I guess that's kind of where we're being able to give back.
Yeah, and I would say that the CTE, for like a plug to people, there is a lot of alternative funding for this work. And if you want to access it and grab it, it will help move your work forward.
Yeah, that's a smart move on your behalf, the two of you, to offer something like that. And I really appreciate it too, because it's obviously you're doing it for the right reasons. We do know a lot of our rural schools are in situations where they're too small to have people like yourself in those positions to be able to move this type of work forward. So yeah, we're seeing that across the country, and there's some good solutions out there, but being able to network and support each other is a big thing. Let's shift one very last thing before we say goodbye. Is let's talk a little bit about our conference. I know you guys offer a level up conference. You're looking at doing it in June. Our conference, as you and I, the two of you, we've talked about, which is going to it's going to be an unconference, something a little bit different. We've got a great lineup with it, but tell us a little bit about what your conference entails, when you're looking at doing it, what's the vision behind it. Take a little plug for that.
I'd say, like you said, we're looking at early June 15th, 16th, just solidifying some final things with our venue. Our conference feeds off of what you do, Scott, in your own conference. So
Yeah,
how do you change stuff up? But once you have those conversations in April, or April, correct? Or is it
yeah, end of April.
end
Yeah,
of April? Once you have those conversations, the next thing that people are going to need to start to tackle and understand is that this is a three-legged stool to get the work
mhm.
moving forward. Education, business, support networks, CESA, chambers, and whatever it is. And so our challenge is to the people that go to the unconference, all right, level up, let's get something moving forward. And that's the same challenge we put out there to our business communities and we put out to our support networks. All right, what's working? Here's the practice script. How do we start to build your offense in your area to really make this work move forward to do what's right for the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, I'm excited about it, and definitely like to get involved. If you've got a spot, I'd
Yeah.
even offer up, come in and maybe say a few things if possible. But the other thing I think is really important, and I really hear it in your voice. I know that we've talked about this, the three of us, in trying to figure out how do we offer what's best for our state, and not kind of lean into just one particular type of a conference. Yeah,
100%.
how do we collaborate throughout our state to see this move, so this movement, take root and really transform? Thoughts on that?
So this will be the third year of our conference, and 3 years ago, it really was that conversation. It was, as an educator, you go to a conference with other educators, you problem solve, you learn about best practices, and then you go back to your school, and then you're hit with the grind, right?
Yeah,
Or business people are going to their different local networks and chambers, but very rarely were educators and businesses and those support networks all in a room together, problem solving and coming up with some solutions,
hmm,
right? So Jim and I, when we present, whether it be locally or nationally, we always challenge our audience at the end with, all right, what are we going to do in 30 days? What are we going to do in 60 days? And where are we going to be in a year, right? Write it down right now, put that on your wall. That is kind of the challenge. But that's how it has to look different, I think. We have to be together in the same room, not just tech ed's all
yeah.
over here or family consumer science is all over here. Leadership is over here. We need to come together to come up with these solutions.
And I would mirror too, like we talk about the 30-60-1 challenge and kind of where some of that gets rooted. Is I caution everyone, don't look at mine and Dustin's day 10,000. Like where I started with some of my systematic approaches and things I was doing was how do I streamline my semester
Mhm.
evaluation to my employers? Like instead of getting crumpled up papers. And then from there, we found a process that worked for us. And then we moved to the next step, into the next step, into the next step. So the other challenge for every school district and every business partner sitting next to that school district and every community member that's involved, what's your day one to just make you 1% better? Like find that. And then when you're 1% better and it's working and it's streamlined, what's your day two? What's your day three? To then you can start to make some real systematic change. Don't try to make this systematic change after he, because Scott, you're gonna have like your lineup that you have coming into your unconference is a great lineup. Like I've talked to Kevin Fleming on the national stage and read his book and sat down with him and collaborated with him over the years. If people are going to get so much good information from Kevin,
Yeah,
but if they try to pull Kevin's day 10,000, they're going to be
right.
overwhelmed and stop. So what's just day one? What's your day one?
Yeah, I like your thought behind it. And actually, as we've talked, and I think the relationship and partnership amongst ourselves, but definitely the three of us, really looks like the fact that what we can offer at CESA 2 is that in-district support as districts start to roll forward with this, because that's our responsibility, and that is something that really aligns to the work that I've been doing with districts over the last couple of years, for CESA 2, is actually in district supporting that work. But the conferences, I think, are really vital to be able to spark that interest, be able to move us forward, get that jump start, and be able to, you know, inspire ourselves to kind of continue with it. Otherwise, we're going to see roadblocks, and definitely barriers. But all right, one last question for you guys. I always end this way with our webcast series here. In our tag, It's the future is clear. Teach like it's 2045. What do you feel education is going to look like in 2045?
Go ahead, Jim.
Loaded question, huh? You really put that there. What's education going to look like in 2045?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Our families are becoming informed consumers of their education. And I think there's going to be systems to support and more of an a la carte method to support where people want to go. And what I mean by that is we're going to have our foundational knowledge that we have to obtain before we can move forward, right? What's my day one? But I don't know where my daughter's going to end up right now. She's 15 years old, a sophomore in Mukwonago High School. She dabbles and tinkers, likes building, likes engineering, likes some of the Adobe Creative Suite type stuff. So how is she going to be able to take those interests and get her Adobe Creative Suite certifications and her mouse certifications and her extra certifications that will start to align her up for future success? And those programs exist in a lot of our schools across the state, but I don't think everyone fully understands what that means. And so whether you're on a 7-period day, you're on a modified block schedule or block schedule, I think you're going to have to start trying to find ways of more flexible education that you can tap on the resources and do the stuff at the times allotted. So I think just getting technically and more advanced in how do we streamline opportunities that better align to students' interests to help pad and build their portfolios.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be streamlined, but it will have to be intentional.
Yeah.
I just don't think in 2045, with the rate at which things are going, that there can be as much, I don't want to say fluff, but as much time to not be super intentional with what your goals are, with achieving your goals. And you're going to have to be goal oriented. It's going to be streamlined, and it has to be intentional to get to where you want to go.
Well said. Yeah, I think you guys are both spot on. It's a great question though to think about, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. You might want to go out and ask your whole staff and see what the response would be. But I really appreciate you guys joining me today. Taking the time. I think you guys are great thought leaders doing some outstanding work. Really appreciate it. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they go about doing that?
Email, phone call. Scott, if you don't have our contact information, we can get that to you. Like you said, being thought leaders, always open to conversations through the district and just talking.
Just reach out on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
We're active on LinkedIn, so just reach out on LinkedIn and can continue the conversations.
And or you can look at our website, which is hcchive.com, and connect with us there as well.
Yeah, that's great. Really appreciate it. Thanks again, you guys. Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate everybody joining us. As we depart, remember the future is clear. Take care, everybody.